we'll get started shortly. Slow when you're watching. There we go. So welcome, everyone. I will call this meeting, this special meeting of the Village of Fundy Albert Council for October 12th, 2023 to order. First item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. The agenda for this special meeting of council for October 12th, 2023 was circulated in advance. There's one proposed addition to the agenda, that being 3 sponsorship requests that were just received as item number 7. That would make the closed session item number 8 and the adjournment item number 9. Do all councillors agree to the proposed addition of this agenda item? Yes. So all being in favor, I would accept a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. So moved by Councillor Coates, seconded by Councillor Jonah. Any questions on the motion? If not, all in favor, signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed, if any? Is carried unanimously. Are there any conflicts of interest to declare in relation to today's agenda? There being none, we move on to item number 4, which is the Fundy Albert Provincial Municipal Highway Program submission, which is the main reason why we're holding the meeting today. That submission was to be into the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure 2 weeks ago, but we managed to get an extension until tomorrow. So that so the proposed PMHP, which is the Highway Partnership Program submission for the Village of Fundy Albert, was finalized today and was provided to council. It includes a shoulder reconstruction on Route 915 in Alma in year 1 at a cost of $125,000. Milling and paving of Route 114 in Riverside, Albert in year 2 at a cost of $925,200. Milling and paving of Route 114 in Hillsborough in year 3 at a cost of $620,000. And curb and gutter work in Alma and resealing work on Route 915 in year 4 in Riverside, Albert at a cost of $156,000. And there are, because it's considered a provincial municipal partnership, there are certain costs that are borne by the municipality, and those would have to be budgeted for. For a village, those costs can be as little as 5%, and those were the cost-based shared ratio that were included in the submission. So the plan does require a motion of council. It must be submitted to DTI no later than tomorrow. Before we get to that point, does anyone have any questions in relation to the submission itself?
I do. Where did the amounts come from? Like, for instance, the DTI contribution amounts, which is 95% of any of the projects. Is that numbers that they gave us?
No, those were numbers that we were responsible, and it's part of the program. We were responsible to provide them. So there were a combination of efforts between the municipality and the paving contractors, as an example, for milling and paving, what the costs were and their approximations. And then secondly, we started to englobe for certain costs per meter on certain topics. So those are approximations, and they're based on today's dollars.
Okay, and so that was the municipality with its partners working on up these numbers.
Okay. Yeah. And I will say this much, that I'm very appreciative of the work that our municipal staff put into this, because it was all put together basically in the last couple of weeks. So if there are any other questions, it does require a motion of council. So I believe Councillor Elderkin, you were going to make the motion?
Yes, I so moved, and that the document entitled "The Village of Fundy Albert 4-Year Plan for the Provincial Municipal Highway Partnership Program 2025 to 2028 be adopted."
So moved by Councillor Elderkin, seconded by Councillor Land. Any questions on the motion?
Is there a reason why we didn't put in more? Like, More jobs?
The idea is to have something in each one of the 4 years.
Yeah,
And previously, each one of the municipalities would have been able to put in 5 projects.
Yeah.
And I verified with the program coordinator that we're limited to a total of maximum of 5. But right now we have 4. Next year, we'll have to revise that. So there were 4 that were put in for this year. I think that's 4. Yes.
but we could have, like, for instance, one year, it's almost $1 million. Why wouldn't we have tried to put in $1 million for next year? Is it because we had the money, or?
We used the submissions from the previous former
Yeah,
municipalities and put these together.
Okay,
Okay. It doesn't mean that next year, when we update that plan, that we can't add to it. But for now, these were the ones that were priorities, and they were based on the years in the plan.
so we put in this as our wish list and then do it, what we hear back from the province, whether they agree, or is that?
At some point, they could come back and do like they did last year for the former village of Hillsborough. They said that there was an amount of money assigned, I believe it's 100,000 for the paving of Pound Hill from the Salem Road right up to the top of Pound Hill. They allow us a certain amount of money, then it's up to us to get the engineers to do the tendering work and all that. So that's why that's what this is part. All right, so there being no further questions, all in favor of the motion signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed, if any? Motion's carried unanimously. So thank you very much. Item number 5 on the agenda is paving in Riverside, Albert. So on October 3rd, during the regular meeting, the council approved a motion to award a contract for asphalt patching of Water Street in the community of Riverside, Albert, to Brown's Paving at a cost not to exceed $40,000 plus HST. The actual cost of the patching work was $9,480 plus HST. Given the fact that council was prepared to spend up to $40,000 plus HST in the community, and there were other streets in Riverside, Albert, that are in dire need of repair, an email was circulated on October 11th seeking approval to award a contract to Brown's Paving, who were in the community for tack coating and placement of asphalt on Porter Street at a cost, when combined with the work on Water Street, amounted to $910.40 plus HST. The direction of council would be required to adopt a motion to approve that, and I believe I circulated something on there. So it would require a rescinding of the original motion, and then a motion to adopt the combined work for the total of $39,910.40. So Councillor Land, you would like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion to rescind. Be it resolved that the Village of Fundy Albert Council rescind the motion adopted on October 3rd, 2023, related to the issuance of a contract for asphalt patching on Water Street in the community of Riverside, Albert, to Brown's Paving at a cost of $40,000 plus HST.
So moved by Councillor Land. Is there a second on that motion? Councillor Jonah. Councillor Jonah seconded that. Any questions on the motion? So the reason why we rescind the motion rather than try to amend the motion is it changes so substantially that it requires a rescinding of a previous motion and in the entertaining of a new motion. So any questions on that motion? If not, all in favor signify by stating aye.
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 Opposed, if any, the motion is hereby rescinded. So it would require a new motion if someone would be so kind as to read that.
Be it resolved that further to correspondence that was circulated to members of council, that the Village of Fundy Albert Council award a contract for asphalt patching of Water Street in the community of Riverside, Albert, and for tack coating and placement of 1.5 inch of compacted type D asphalt on Porter Street in the community of Riverside, Albert, to Brown's Paving at a cost of $39,910.40 plus HST.
So moved by Councillor Elderton. Is there a seconder on that motion? Councillor Coates. Any questions on that motion? So really, it's just a change from the previous motion to this one. If not, all in favor signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed, if any? Motion's carried unanimously. Item number 6 on the agenda, which is the water test results. So we've received the results of the test done on our municipal water supplies in Alma, Riverside, Albert, and Hillsborough. The results indicate that the levels of glyphosate and AMPA are both below the reporting limit of 0.05 milligrams per liter of water. There has been information circulating on social media suggesting that there are small amounts of glyphosate in our drinking water and that we are okay with that. We have reached out to the company who does our testing and they provided the following explanation. A couple of ways to describe the reporting limit. The reporting limit is statistically derived and is based on the sensitivity and repeatability of the analytical tests at low concentrations. The reporting limit is defined as the lowest reported concentration for a particular parameter. This limit is set at a level where the results are believed not to be subject to laboratory-induced contamination or other sources of bias. The reporting limit is the minimum concentration of a substance that can be measured and reported with confidence. And the analyte, what they were looking for, concentration is greater than 0. So the reporting parameter is a reporting reporting limit of less than 0.05 milligrams per liter in the case of glyphosate, is the same as reporting parameters, what they call BDL, which is below detection limit level. The Health Canada guidelines for Canadian drinking water identified, and this is a Health Canada guideline, identify the maximum allowable concentrate of glyphosate at 0.28 milligrams per liter of water. Clearly, the results of the samples taken from the water supplies in the 3 municipalities are well below this level. Council has followed through on its commitment to have the water tested, and no additional measures are anticipated unless warranted. Does council have any questions or comments on that?
I got caught up in all these numbers. I'm not the most educated person at this table. So I just want a simple question. Yes, no. Was there any at all detected?
We don't know the answer to that question because it's below the detectable level. So it could be, theoretically, could be from 0.04 to absolute 0, but they will not come out and say 0. So it is below the detectable level.
Reporting level.
Reporting. That reporting level of 0.05 is below that. It's below the detectable level that they can say with any degree of confidence that they can repeat that and come up with the same result. So that's a scientific result that basically says it's below that detectable level. But to answer your question, we don't have the answer to that question. No. And all 3 municipal supplies were at that same level. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Ward Russell, any questions?
No, thank you.
Councillor Land, any questions?
No. Thank you.
Councillor Coates?
No questions.
Okay. Councillor Arrow?
The only question I have is when we agreed to do this test,
Yes.
right? We said to ourselves that if nothing else, because is it true that we believe that the watersheds that we're feeding into these well locations weren't actually sprayed this year? Do we even know that?
I don't know that for a fact. No.
Okay, so what we do know then is the test results are for 1 day of this year. So September 12th was the day. And if we in the future have any further reason to believe that it's worthy of testing again, we'll address that at that time, I guess, right?
That's what I'm saying is that they would require no additional measures are anticipated unless warranted.
Yeah.
So if we became aware that there was active spraying, we could test it.
Yeah. And so we'll want to make sure that we store our results in a safe place, that we can consult with them at another time if need be to compare.
Right. Exactly.
That's the definite, you have to do that.
Yeah.
If they spray, if we know they spray, we're gonna go back on the horn and then run these tests again.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so I think the main reason I brought this up is to make sure that people understand that the results themselves do not confirm the presence of glyphosate in the water. It's below the detectable level.
So I would suggest that we put this out on through our communication channels, the results and the blurb about what the significance of a reporting level means,
Right.
like you just read, and that the results are below that level.
Correct.
Yeah. I think we should do that. We pay for it. It's we want people to be
And
aware that what we've learned, right? We're trying to be.
And we said that we would be transparent with the results.
Yeah.
Those are the results.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we move on to item number 7, sponsorship requests. We have 3 sponsorship requests that were submitted to us just recently. Some of them are coming up rather quickly. The first is the Shepherdie Fish and Game Association. We've received a sponsorship request for the 34th annual Sportsman's Supper, which takes place on October 21st. In the past, the former village of Hillsborough and Riverside have supported this organization through the grants budget. I believe last year, the former village of Riverside Albert sponsored them for a total of $150. Hillsborough didn't last year, but I know that they sponsored them in previous years. So is that something council would like to consider? Now, I spoke with our treasurer, and our treasurer indicates that they're still in the sum of $20,000 in the grants budget.
Yeah, I think we should sponsor that.
So there was, those were part of the draft motions, if you would, Councillor Land.
Be resolved that the village of Hillsborough, be resolved that the village of Fundy Albert Council sponsor the Shepherdie Fish and Game Organization 34th annual supper through a grant contribution of $400.
Okay, so moved by Councillor Land. Is there a seconder on that motion? Seconded by Councillor Elderton. We'll get you on the paper, Councillor Elderton. Any discussion on that motion?
Well, so we never did get our policy, did we?
No.
No.
So I believe actually that there was a draft of one early on provided by our Director of Community Services, which I thought was at least a good start. Maybe we need to ask her to
Fine.
re-engage that.
Sure.
What I would offer to her if she's listening or reads the minutes is that one of the things that I think was missing from the policy is if someone who's looking for a grant is offering something in kind in return, this I think is good for us. As an example, if a museum had a meeting space and they're seeking a grant to operate, but they are prepared to, in return, share the availability of a meeting space, should we ever need it for the community, that would be that's to me, a win-win. Was it $400? Is that, I didn't.
That was the motion. Yeah. Yes.
All right, that's
Any other questions, Councillor Earl?
no.
Anyone else have any questions? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, if any? Motion's carried unanimously. The second request was in relation to the Fundy Tourism. We've received a request for sponsorship of the Fundy Tourism's Gala Supper, which is being held on October 28th at Hopeful Rocks. They're looking for sponsorship in the form of ticket purchases or by donating items for a raffle and/or auction. Is there any interest in doing something for this organization?
I think we should change the date. It's October 28th,
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
On the motion or?
yeah, yes,
Okay, well,
to
all right,
mark that, and I'll move that I'll just read it. Be resolved that the Village of Fundy Albert Council sponsors the Fundy Tourism Gala Supper event being held on October the 28th, 2023 through a grant contribution in the amount of $200 for through the purchase of 2 tickets at a cost of $200. I would say the 200 grant.
The $200 grant, not the purchase of 2 tickets. Is that your motion, Counselor?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So moved by Counselor Coates that we have a contribution of $200 grant towards the Fundy Tourism Suppers. Anyone second that motion? Seconded by Counselor Jonah. Any questions on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any, the motion's carried. The last request is one that came to us from a local resident. And we received a request to sponsor a local youth to attend the 101st Royal Agricultural Winter Fair in Toronto. The local youth is one of 9 who will represent New Brunswick at the fair, and I think it's with cattle. And the request was forwarded to members of council. This is a little different because it's not to an organization, it's to sponsor a local youth to attend an event that's out of province. So what is council's wishes?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Nine says.
I guess, you know, like you said, this is a different request, but I guess being in the field of agriculture, I think that, and being in the 4-H program myself for a number of years, the program does wonders to our youth here in the village of Fundy Albert. So I would support this.
Okay.
You go ahead and speak, and then I can make a motion if you want.
Well, you can make a motion and we can have a debate about it, sure.
Be it resolved that the Village of Fundy Albert Council sponsor a local youth, one of the 9 New Brunswick youths who will be attending the 101st Royal Agricultural Winter Fair in Toronto through a grant contribution in the amount of $100.
So moved by Councillor Ward Russell, seconded by Councillor Land. Any discussion of the motion?
Believe it, the amount there is consistent with the bursaries, I think.
Yes,
Maybe.
no, I believe the bursaries are 125 each. I believe each one of the bursaries.
Okay, to me, I see this as similar to a bursary. Anyway, I'm supportive.
Okay, any other comments or questions? So on the motion to grant a contribution of $100, all in favor signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any? The motion's carried.
Who seconded that one?
I believe it was Councillor Land seconded it.
Can I just say something, Seth? Thank you.
Yes,
I'll talk about grants. At our last council meeting, we had a proposal from CRHS for starting a breakfast program for the youth up there. And we decided that we would talk about who else has, if Riverside Albert has one, which we know that they do, and they have a breakfast program as well as the elementary school. To me, these kids are hungry today. I don't think we should wait too much longer. I would like to see at the cow meeting that we introduce a motion to provide funding for these 20 to 30 kids at the cow grant.
just to be clear, you're correct. It was brought up at the last meeting and it's for high school students. It's
Right.
not for the young people, sorry.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
It's
all right.
for CRHS.
So by all means, we'll add it to the agenda at the committee of the whole.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So, let's see where we are now. That brings us to the closed session. So I would need a motion to move into closed session. So moved by Councillor Land, seconded by Councillor Elderkin. Any questions on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any? Motion's carried. I will stop the recording.